Welcome to episode 4.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
Are you ready to plan your next vacation getaway? Then I recommend using 3D Travel Company. They are more powerful than pixie dust, more fantastic than flu powder, and they never charge a fee. Whether you're booking a Disney or Universal vacation, a relaxing cruise, or a luxury trip overseas, you'll experience concierge-level service unmatched by any agency. From the moment you submit a complimentary quote request or inquiry on their website at www.3dtravelcompany.com, you'll find out what it means to be pampered by the best in the business. That's 3, the letter D, travelcompany.com. And tell them Trenton sent you.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today on the show, we have Daniel Ross with us. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Wait, it's another show? I was still listening to the last show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Daniel. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you today. Well, Daniel, the first thing we always like to do when we have a guest on the show is just get a little bit of a brief story of who they are.
To answer your question, a little bit about me. I am an actor, film producer, and voice actor, as I mentioned, originally from the East Coast, in an area that we fondly call the DMV, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia. That whole area, not the Department of Motor Vehicles, as some people get. I again started out as a struggling actor working on independent films, your typical schlocky B horror sci-fi movies, and eventually I decided in order to facilitate that acting, I would need to step behind the camera, and since that time I've produced 9 films. 3 of which were some of my favorites. My very first one, Ninjas vs. Zombies, followed by Ninjas vs. Vampires, and the most recent one, Ninjas vs. Monsters. I wonder if you can tell who won the previous 2 movies. They were lots of fun, and right now we just released Trek Off, the motion picture, which is based on a potty-mouthed Star Trek podcast by my friend and good associate Justin Tim Payne and Alexia Poe. Their combination is fantastic, and if you watch the movie right now on Amazon Prime streaming for free, you can check it out. The other one, real quick, am I allowed to say naughty words on this podcast?
We do try to keep those to a 0 balance.
Very good, very good. I will abbreviate. So the title of the other film, which is coming out, is You're Effing Dead. Yes, that's the name of the title. And it's a grindhouse thriller, and I was very pleased to see that it turned out well. We just premiered those a couple weeks back in Maryland to great reception, so we're very excited to see how those both play on the market. But yeah, so film producer, and I got into voice acting when I was very young. I always would come home and imitate my teachers and my neighbors, and I would entertain my parents and my family to no ends, you know, probably to the point of them slipping Valium in my food or something like that. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. But yeah, I was always very much into doing voices and silly characters. And it was only probably 8 years ago that I really discovered that I could do that, and someone would pay me for it and I could make money. Yeah, so I started dabbling as I was a huge Transformers fan. I started dabbling into some of the fan dubs, and we had dubbed over some of the Japanese versions of the Transformers cartoons. And, I kept getting used and really enjoyed the process. And eventually I heard that they were making a Transformers movie, and I said to myself, man, I could combine 2 of the things that I love the most, voice acting and Transformers. This would be amazeballs. So I took the opportunity. I made a comic book. I sent it to Steven Spielberg, Michael Bay, and pretty much everybody that I possibly could. And eventually I got an audition, which was unprecedented considering I was still in Maryland at the time. And I did that. Activision got a hold of me and said, "Hey, would you like to be the voice of Starscream?" And I said, "Yeah, I would. Okay, that would be good. Thank you, peoples. Nice peoples." And yeah, from there, I did the video games for the movies and, started hitting the convention circuit and really just solidified my love of the craft. So as I mentioned 2 years ago, I huffed it cross country and I started out here, and it has been quite a wild ride. Very, very successful venture.
Well, that is most fascinating. I'm a huge fan of Transformers as well, so I know for you, being a fan, getting cast as that role had to have just been most excellent.
Oh my gosh. And let me tell you something too. I was telling a very personal story out here at the Hollywood Improv, after a show with a bunch of other voice actors. And, there's this girl who's crying across from me as I'm telling this story. And I couldn't figure out why she was crying, but it was about Chris Latta, who was the original voice of Starscream. So, I'm telling this story about something that happened, an interaction with a fan, and this girl is crying, and someone leans in and says, "Hey, you know who that is, right?" I'm like, "No, who's that?" "Oh, that's Abby. That's Chris's daughter." And we hugged it out, and we had a moment, and we've been friends ever since. So, yeah, those kinds of moments happen out here, where you meet the family of your childhood heroes and somehow later in life become part of that. And it's really, really interesting and lovely.
Wow, that's a really, really sweet story, man. That's pretty awesome.
She's going to listen to this and be like, Daniel.
I'm sure she would. Oh, well, that would be great if she does listen to it. I hope she does. So
I'm going to have to point it her way.
Awesome.
Maybe we'll get her on here.
Hey, you never know, man.
She's an actress as well.
Well, that would be, hey, pass it on.
I shall.
Well, I know you were cast as Starscream, as you'd previously mentioned, and I also know you were cast as Hound in the Transformers game as well.
That's correct. Hound and Mixmaster.
Excellent.
And Mixmaster. An interesting story about that recording session. When I got the part, I auditioned for, they wanted, your traditional Chris Latta Starscream, Decepticons attack! They wanted that, and they wanted something a little bit more demonic. So I kind of referenced Tarantulas a little bit from Beast Wars Transformers, Alec Willows, who is very much in here, and, all over the place. So I kind of combined the two, and Starscream ended up sounding like this. When I got to the studio, Carl Weathers was my director, Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies. And he says to me, "Daniel, I'd really let's just do a light British accent." And I said, so wait a minute. You're telling me you want Starscream to sound like this? Perfect. That's what we want. I broke out in such a sweat. Oh my gosh. Cause as a fan, I'm like, no, I can't do that. The fans will kill me and I'd be very dissatisfied. So we kind of figured it out on the spot, and ultimately the voice that we came up with is what worked. And I was fairly pleased with it. It was not an imitation of what came before. It was something new, and it felt right, given the circumstances. So I was very happy with that. Hound and Mixmaster, I believe, were exclusive to the PSP versions of the video game. I've never seen a clip of Mixmaster from the game. It was a boss fight, I think, and they wanted him to sound like Mike Tyson. So Mixmaster sounded a little bit more like this, with that lift, and we're gonna kick some Autobot butt. So certainly a departure from the Generation 1 voice. But no, I've not seen any animatics with it yet, or anything of the sort. I never played the PSP version, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, that's awesome that you were able to, get to play so many of the different roles for that. And as being a fan, I know that had to be very amazing for you. So.
It was incredible. I mean, it was unprecedented for me, and it was such a move, a paradigm shift from being somebody who's doing these dubs to doing something official, let alone such a magnificent and well-known character. So I was grateful for the experience, and, even, gosh, it's been 8 years now. since the original came out. Uh, I still have people who recognize the voice and who love the game and, ask me, hey, when are you doing something else for Transformers? And I have to answer by going, when my agent tells me.
Well, you just got to take them when they come, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Daniel, I know that you had become involved with, I believe it was your first credited video game, Runway 2 Dream of the Turtle. How did you become involved with that project initially?
How do you know so many things?
The internet.
Oh, the internet foils me again. Yeah, Runaway 2, Dream of the Turtle, that was a game that I did. I was cast by Lonnie Minella, who is a fellow voice actress out here. She runs a company called Audio Gods, and she cast me for Runaway 2. She also cast me for Dungeons & Dragons Neverwinter, which I played a whole slew of characters. Yeah, it was a fun experience. I got to play an Aussie, for that one, and played this character called Knife, and some crazy guy as well, and Leslie was his name. Oh, my colonel, and it was a really fun experience. I think we did probably 2 sessions on that one. And that was it, and then it was out.
That is most excellent, man. That sounds very fascinating. I know it sounds like when you get to play multiple characters on a project, it just makes it that much more interesting for you as the actor.
Oh, it is absolutely part of the joy of being an actor is a level of escapism. Being able to be silly and also challenging yourself. Much like any other job, people like to be challenged. This is one of those situations where I get to do it most of the time, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And most of the time, given the contracts that we typically work, we're allowed to do a certain number of additional voices without the company having to pay anything additional. So that's always a plus. In some circumstances, you get a little bit of a bump, but sometimes it's, I think like up to 4 hours and up to 3 voices. For the same price. So we'll get our exercise on that front. Absolutely.
The vocal exercise there.
Yes.
So Daniel, I know with your involvement in gaming and stuff, I know you also in 2012 had the, distinguished honor of being in Neverwinter, which I have a lot of gaming friends and I've been told that they love Neverwinter. And how did you become involved with that project?
Well, much like Runaway 2, Lonnie Minella cast me and thought that it would be a good project for me to work on. And I was very grateful for the experience to jump on that because I know what a huge property that is. And I know how many people have played it. And it's really exciting to be able to be a part of something like that and bring people enjoyment. I must admit, I've never played Neverwinter. I don't have the time, unfortunately, but it seems like it was a lot of fun, and the characters were a lot of fun, and I just hope that people enjoyed it.
Most definitely. I've heard a lot of wonderful things about it I've got friends that are more hardcore gamers than I am. I just don't, like you, have the time to invest in games as much as I'd like to, but I've heard a lot of really good things about Neverwinter. So that's fascinating that you were able to be a part of that.
I agree completely. And to any of your listeners who have played that game, thank you.
Daniel, when you ended up getting into voiceover work, did you ever imagine the diverse ways in which your voice might one day be used?
No, absolutely not. Voice acting is not something that I anticipated getting into. I've always been interested in on-camera acting, and that brought me to producing, that brought me to writing, all to facilitate me being on camera. And the fact of the matter was, because I would impersonate my teachers and people, and I would listen to the cadence of other people's voices, and I would be fascinated by that. It just never occurred to me that that was a vocation until a certain point when I started watching Beast Wars Transformers and was amazed by that voice cast. The diversity in the voices, the complexity of the characters in a kid show just really blew me away. And I found myself imitating these characters and then going to the conventions and meeting these people. Scott McNeil was a huge inspiration for me. David Sobolov, who's been my friend for over a decade now, also a huge mentor and inspiration. Gary Chalk, David Kay, just so many amazing people that came out of that franchise. that I now work with and call friend. I never would have anticipated this. I'm grateful for it. I'm making a living doing it, and it's fun, and you get to, influence people in a positive way. I'm very aware that fandom is an escape, from the outside world in many respects, and to be able to be the voice of something for somebody out there that is their escape is just really gratifying. So I love voiceover. I can't wait to do this for the rest of my life.
Well, most definitely. I mean, you've been a part of some amazing games, and I look forward to seeing, what kind of projects you'll be involved with in the future.
Oh boy, we're gonna have to do another interview because there is some serious stuff coming down the line. I wish I could talk about. I can tell you this: I have two animated series on the way, one for Netflix and one for the Disney Channel. I have a couple features coming out, and the work just, it keeps coming, and I'm grateful for every bit of it.
Well, that is awesome, man. We will definitely have to have you back on the show at a later time to discuss your new up and coming projects.
Yes!
That will be so awesome. I would love to get the scoop on that and get that out to our listeners.
I would love that.
Well, Daniel, tell us a time that you had to overcome a difficult situation, and how did you get through that situation?
Let's see here. I would say probably the most difficult situation that I had ever faced was in my late teens. I had run away from home. I was homeless for a few months. Somebody stole my shoes. I slept outside. It was not a fun ordeal. And it was one of those experiences that, really humbled me and made me take a look at my life and see what I was doing. And I realized that I had an opportunity, given whatever talents and dreams that I had, that hopefully someday down the line I could be a beacon of light for those who have traversed a similar path, and just be a reminder that no matter the circumstances, if you set your mind to do something, you can do it. In this case, it happened to be, performance, entertainment, voiceover, but it applies to everything. If you are passionate about something, the only thing that holds you back is yourself. So I overcame that, and, hopefully with whatever comes down the line, I will have an opportunity to talk about that at more, at more length and detail, and I would love to inspire other people to get into this crazy world of ours, because I love it, and I think it's just wonderful. I'm living a lifestyle that I enjoy. I'm not rich by any means. I get by, but I'm happy, and I think that's really all you can ask for, rather than. I used to slave at a regular 9 to 5. In fact, before I really started to get some credits out here, I was working overnight, pushing product from trucks and managing logistics, and 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. every single day, and then going out and doing auditions and going out and networking and everything that I could possibly do to facilitate this career. And all that hard work paid off. Does it happen right when you want it to? No. Sometimes it takes time, but I hope that the message of my career, whatever success that I've had, can be that message to other people that you can do it. If you really want to do something, you can do it.
Well, that's amazing to hear how you persevered through all of those situations, being homeless and losing your shoes. And it sounds like you've been extremely blessed to be where you are today.
Look, man, I count my blessings every single day. And I'll tell you something else. I look for coincidence to remind me that I'm on the right path, so to speak. I don't want to get religious or anything of the sort, but if you look for happy coincidences, things that happen that lead you to other things, you'll find a better sense of purpose in your life. And I think that's what I've been able to do, and that's what helps me keep my head up. So that's where it stands right now, and I'm just happy to be here.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. I mean,
Thank you.
That story was most excellent. And, you talked about inspiring people, and this show is not just to share the passions of voiceover behind the scenes and to get to know the actors and the individuals that make this happen, but you talked about inspiring people. And this show, I want to, to help people be educated, inspired, and motivated. And I think the story you told us of overcoming your struggles in life is exactly what people need to hear, so they can understand that voice actors are just everyday people, just like the listeners on this show, and that like you said, if they dream it hard enough, if they pursue it hard enough, anything can happen.
Exactly. I'll put a button on that for you. I was at a convention, making an appearance as a guest, and there was a girl who threw her arms around me, was giving me kisses on the cheek, and was talking up a storm, showing me drawings, and just was a lovely young lady. And I saw her mother behind her crying her eyes out, and I couldn't figure the situation out. When she was done, she moved on to the next guest, and the mother came over and threw her arms around me and gave me a big hug and said, "I don't know who you are, I don't know what you do, but my daughter is autistic and hasn't spoken in 5 years. Thank you."
Oh, wow. That is unbelievably fascinating.
That was the moment that I realized the impact of what we do as voiceover people. We do it for fun. We do it to get paid and be silly, and it has such a resonating impact. So I'm very passionate about the fact that voiceover and animation and video games have such a tremendous impact on people's lives, and I couldn't be happier to be such a small part of that to a degree.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. That is so fascinating. I'm sure that young lady's life was changed in ways that, go beyond words.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, speaking of all the trials and tribulations you've gone through and the struggles in life, do you have any motivational or inspirational quotes that kind of help you get through the day or through your life?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Very long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I had auditioned for the role of Robin in Batman Forever.
Oh, wow.
They were doing a cattle call in Washington, D.C., and I made it through the first round, I made it through the second round, and I got to meet the casting director, Molly Finn, from Warner Brothers at the time. And it got to the point where they recorded me for Joel Schumacher, and they were going for a much younger Robin, I guess, at the time, before Chris O'Donnell was brought in to do the role. And she leaned in after my audition and she said, "Daniel, I always want you to remember this. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. Always remember that." And of course, I'm a little, I'm 13 at the time. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, thanks." But that really stuck with me. It really, really stuck with me. And it basically meant that you have to make noise. If you want something, you have to go after it. And the idea of that has really fueled my career and basically anything that I do in life. If I want something, I'm going to pursue it to the fullest of my capabilities. And, that's the direction. That's my quote for you.
Daniel, thank you so much for sharing those inspirational words with us. Side note, that's crazy. I had no clue you were able to be part of that whole Batman Robin process. That's crazy.
It was so much fun, and it was so exciting. I mean, again, I was 13 years old, and you were supposed to be 14 to audition. I don't know what the specific requirement was, but when Molly asked me, she's like, "How old are you?" I went 14. And she said, "How old are you really?" And I said, 13. And she said, "Okay, next round." I'm like, "Wait, what?" "You're rewarding me for breaking the rules?"
So how old was Chris O'Donnell when he did the role? Because he
much
wasn't
older,
14.
much older. Obviously, they changed the role. I think what they were going for was a flashback to a younger Robin.
Oh, okay.
A street smart kid or something like that. I wasn't really privy to the script or anything like that. Most of what we did was improv, but that's what I extrapolated from it.
Daniel, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in joining the voiceover industry?
Advice. So this is a mixed bag because I always come from a place of encouragement. I want people to investigate things that interest them. I want people to pursue things that they enjoy. But there is a reality to the voiceover world that not a lot of people talk about, and that is that there is a financial obligation. You need equipment. You need to better yourself. You need to take workshops. You need to coach with industry professionals. You can do voiceover from anywhere in the world through voiceover IP sites. The internet has opened up such a tremendous marketplace. But if you're really interested in it, you got to move to where voiceover is happening. And realistically, that's here in Los Angeles. If you're Canadian, up in Vancouver, even New York, to a certain degree in the U.S. is a great spot to begin that process. But you have to be there. You have to give good face, as some people put it. You have to be able to meet in person. You have to be able to audition in person. And this is for the big stuff. If you're looking at, small commercials, radio work, TV spots, you can do that pretty much from anywhere. But if animation is what you're passionate about and really interested in getting into, you have to be where the action is, and that requires a huge commitment, not only in time but money, uh, blood, sweat, and tears. I mean it. It really takes a lot to get you where you need to go. Because here's the reality of it. You have a great voice. You have an arsenal of character voices at your disposal. Well, there's probably 100 to 200 people out here who do the exact same thing. So what makes you better? You have to figure that out. And that takes time, patience, as I said, money, and perseverance. So if you're willing to put in all those things and spend the time, voiceover is a wonderful, wonderful job to break into and very rewarding.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Daniel. I know there are a lot of people that, have those kind of questions of what it takes to really break into the industry, and this kind of information really helps those who are interested at least have a starting point to work off of.
I think, listen, if you're like me and you do weird and crazy voices in the shower, in the car, maybe with the windows open and you freak out the people in the other car, you might be right for this business, but it really depends on how you can make yourself competitive, and you have to treat it like a business. So if you've got a creative streak in you, if you've got a couple crazy, quirky voices in your arsenal and you're curious about it, absolutely, I would encourage you to look into it, do your research. In fact, there is a website created by D. Bradley Baker, a wonderful resource called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. And if you go there, from beginner to intermediate to advanced, it's all free, and he gives you pretty much a lifetime's experience of information. So if you're curious, go check it out. iwanttobeavoiceactor.com.
Well, Daniel, do you have a website yourself in which people can contact you should they require your voiceover services?
Oh, absolutely. You can reach out to me at actordanielross.com. In fact, if you want to find me on social media, you can find me across all platforms as Actor Daniel Ross. So yeah, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're interested in voiceover, I'd love to hear your story about how you're getting into it. So yeah, please do find me and let's start a conversation.
Most excellent. Thank you so much for that information. I'm hopefully some people will come your way from listening to this show and have some potential work for you lined up.
That would be fantastic. And once again, if I may, if you like Star Trek and you like potty language, please do check out Trek Off the Motion Picture on Amazon Prime streaming, which is free, or you can rent it. I think it's $2.99, and you can buy it if you're so inclined. It's an hour and a half of geeky goodness, and I hope you enjoy it.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Daniel. I have a couple of quick questions for you.
Yes.
What is your favorite cartoon character and why?
Oh my goodness. Oh, why would you do this to me? I'm a big fan of, Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, the patriarchs of these crazy, silly families on TV. Bugs Bunny. Gosh, Mel Blanc is one of my biggest heroes. Clarence Ducky Nash, who was the original voice of Donald Duck. Oh, man. Joe Alasky, who just passed away not long ago.
Yeah, that was sad.
Was the voice of Daffy and so many others. Yeah, it's really impossible for me to give you a favorite. I'm such a cartoon junkie, especially from the 80s. I mean, Transformers, Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, Optimus Prime, and Megatron. Man, don't make me do it.
Well, if you have more than one, that's absolutely okay.
I have way more than one, and if I picked one, then that character would be mad at me. Daffy Duck would be like, "You're despicable," and then that would be game over.
Well, I totally understand that, man. I have a multitude of cartoons that I'm fascinated with as well. Speaking of cartoons, what is your favorite Disney movie and why?
Oh, are we talking animated?
You can anything that Disney's done, preferably in the animated or CGI like Pixar and everything.
Oh man, I'm a big fan of the older Disney movies, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Mary Poppins. Those are just some of my favorites. Every time I see Dick Van Dyke on something, he just brings such a big smile to my face. Julie Andrews was spectacular as Mary Poppins, and oh, jeez. I mean, Angela Lansbury in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, one of my favorites of all time. I think animated, it would have to be, it's a tie between Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin.
Those are both excellent choices in animation.
I love the feel of Beauty and the Beast. I loved the characters in Aladdin. Both were very, very strong stories, and I appreciated them. I'm a little miffed that Disney is remaking a live-action version of Beauty and the Beast, but, you know, it seems like they're taking cues from the animated movie, so I don't feel as bad. I'll be looking forward to seeing it regardless.
Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a pleasure having you, sir.
Trenton, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to checking back with you guys next year, maybe by the summertime, as some of my bigger credits will be coming out, and we can have a conversation about those.
Yeah, we would absolutely love to have you back on the show.
You're gonna look back on this interview and be like, you were holding out on us.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show today. Would you mind just closing us out? Maybe give us a little Starscream or...
Oh, it was my pleasure. Absolutely. Let's see here. Decepticons, this is Starscream. I want you to listen in to the Who Did That Voice podcast with Trenton Larkin. Do it under pain of death. And listen to Daniel Ross. He's a very nice fellow.
Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. We'll see you next Friday with our next special guest, Prentice Osborne. Hey, are you ready to win some awesome prizes? Each week, one lucky listener will have the chance to become the winner of our giveaway. All you have to do is like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter. Enter hashtag plus the special word of the week for your chance to win. Today's special word of the week is hashtag Decepticons.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.